start with transfers. With less than a month to go until the Premier League returns, there's a potential blow for champions Arsenal as they look to strengthen their squad. So we're joined by Dama Chef, who can tell us more. Right, before that, there's been some breaking news in the last hour or so. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, this is about Vinicius Junior, and Sky Sports News understands that as it stands, he looks set to stay at Real Madrid, and that's because Real Madrid have got no intention of selling Vinicius Junior, and they are confident that he will, in fact, agree a new contract at the Bernabéu. Real Madrid are in a bit of a sticky situation because Vinicius Junior has only got 1 year left on his contract. So in 6 months from now, he could sign a pre-contract agreement with a club outside Spain, and then he could join any club for no money at all next summer. And if you think about the valuation of the player, we think he's around £137 million. That's a big, big amount of money to forego by someone not signing a new contract. But it seems at this stage that Real Madrid are pretty confident that he will agree that new deal. Jose Mourinho, the new boss there, has made that return, of course, to Real Madrid, values him very highly, and he wants him to stay put.
So how will that impact Real's pursuit of Yan Diomande?
Unaffected. I don't think this was anything to do with Vinicius Junior at all. I suppose they may have used it as almost like a way to maybe put pressure on Vinicius Junior. But if you think about it, I think Dave Reed was on yesterday on Sky Sports News, and he was illustrating the positions that Yan Diomande has been playing for RB Leipzig and during the World Cup as well. And he plays on both sides. So there is a situation where Yan Diomande could play on the right. Vinicius Junior signs his new contract at Real Madrid. He keeps his preferred position on the left-hand side, and Kylian Mbappe through the centre. Not a bad front three. As far as Diomande is concerned, he's continuing to train with RB Leipzig at the moment while talks with Real Madrid continue. When I say he's training with them, our colleagues at Sky in Germany are saying it's not that strenuous, the training he's doing, because they want to protect him, because there is a feeling that this deal is pretty close. We think RB Leipzig want around £102 million for him. They feel that that is a reasonable valuation for a player of his ability and his age profile. Real Madrid are offering a little bit less. There is a gap in valuation, but not so big that it seems insurmountable. It seems like it's a one-horse race for this player at the moment because PSG have pulled out, and they publicly pulled out. So it looks like it's going to be a matter of when and not if Diomande becomes a Real Madrid player, but as yet there's no full agreement.
And then what does this mean for Arsenal? Does that mean they're going to now step up their interest in Bradley Barcola?
I think we need to just say Arsenal will continue to keep an eye on Vinicius Junior's situation still. I know we're saying he's set to stay at Real Madrid. This is Real Madrid's confidence that he is going to sign a new contract. He hasn't signed that new contract yet. So as far as Arsenal are concerned, his situation, as it stands right now, he's got a year left on his contract. That's why they are exploring the conditions of a potential deal with Vinicius Junior and making it clear that they are interested. But as we know, how Andrea Berta does his business at Arsenal is very clear. It's not about focusing on one target and then the risk of that target not coming to the Emirates. Where do they go? They try to get their ducks in a row to Arsenal with 3 or 4 deals, with 3 or 4 targets, get as far down the line as they can with as many targets as possible, and then decide, right, this is the player we're going to go for because it suits the budget, it suits our playing style, and it suits the character suits the squad as well. So they will have looked at many other players aside of Vinicius Junior, aside of Morgan Rogers, who ended up going to Chelsea for £117 million. 2 of those players, one of them you've mentioned in Bradley Barcola, he's kind of intimated to PSG that he's not going to sign a new contract. That's primarily because in the biggest games last season, namely the quarterfinals of the Champions League against Liverpool, the semi-finals of the Champions League against Bayern Munich, the final of the Champions League itself against Arsenal in Budapest, he was on the bench. It was Kvaratskhelia, Dembele and Desiree Doué who was the preferred front three for Luis Enrique. He doesn't want to go through that again. Yes, it might have been eased his situation because Yan Diomande is now not coming to PSG, but it doesn't change his situation really at PSG. He's still going to be the first pick after that front three. So it looks like he could become available for a transfer, but it's going to cost a lot of money. Liverpool are interested as well, and we think PSG might value him, well, initially at around £145 million. They see his age profile, he's a French international, and he's a back-to-back Champions League winner. That's how they will pitch it. That's why they will put the price at that high. The other player, of course, is Julián Álvarez from Atletico Madrid. The issue for Arsenal there is Atletico Madrid, don't want to sell. Their price is going to be absolutely huge. And the player's preference, as far as we know, is to go to Barcelona. But if he was to go, Atletico Madrid would probably want to sell outside La Liga rather than to a rival in the same league as them. Hence why it's probably wise that Arsenal keep an eye on the situation of Barcola, of Álvarez, and on Vinicius Junior as well.
Arsenal's search for a new superstar attacker may have just taken its biggest turn yet, because while Vinicius Junior now looks likely to stay at Real Madrid, this transfer story is nowhere near finished. With less than a month before the Premier League returns, Arsenal are strengthening from a position of power. They are champions of England, and Andrea Berta is searching for the attacker who can push Mikel Arteta's side from domestic success towards Champions League glory. Sky Sports News understands that Real Madrid expect Vinicius to remain at the Bernabéu. The Spanish giants have no intention of selling him and believe he will eventually sign a new contract. That sounds like a major blow for Arsenal, but there is one detail Madrid cannot ignore. Vinicius has only 1 year remaining on his current deal. If no extension is agreed, then in just 6 months he could sign a pre-contract agreement with a club outside Spain before leaving Real Madrid for nothing next summer. For a player valued at around £137 million, that would represent an enormous financial risk. Jose Mourinho reportedly values Vinicius highly and wants him to stay. Madrid are confident. But confidence is not a signature. Until the Brazilian officially signs that new contract, Arsenal have every reason to continue watching. At the same time, Real Madrid are pushing to sign Yan Diomande. The 19-year-old RB Leipzig winger is believed to be moving closer to the Bernabéu, with Leipzig reportedly demanding around £102 million. Madrid are offering slightly less, but the gap between the clubs does not appear impossible to overcome. PSG have already withdrawn from the race, leaving Madrid in what increasingly looks like a one-club pursuit. And here comes the first major twist. Diomande may not be arriving to replace Vinicius. He is comfortable on either wing, meaning Madrid could keep Vinicius on the left, use Diomande on the right, and play Kylian Mbappé through the middle. That would create one of the most frightening attacking combinations in world football. So Arsenal cannot simply assume that Diomande's arrival will force Vinicius out. But they also cannot afford to wait all summer for a contract situation that may never create an opportunity. That is where Andrea Berta's strategy becomes crucial. Arsenal are not building their entire transfer window around one nearly impossible deal. Berta's approach is to advance several options at the same time, understand the transfer fee, wages and tactical suitability of each player, and then choose the strongest overall package. Vinicius remains the dream, but Bradley Barcola may be the opportunity. The PSG winger is reportedly unhappy after beginning several of last season's biggest Champions League matches on the bench. Diomande no longer joining PSG removes one potential competitor, but it does not solve Barcola's main problem. He could still enter another season outside Luis Enrique's preferred attacking trio. That could open the door for Arsenal. The problem is the price. Liverpool are also interested, while PSG could reportedly value Barcola at approximately £145 million. He is young, a France international, and already proven at the highest level of European football. Arsenal would not be purchasing another development project. they would be paying superstar money for a player expected to make an immediate difference. Then there is Julián Álvarez. Arsenal admire the Atletico Madrid forward, but that deal could be even more complicated. Atletico do not want to sell, the transfer fee would be enormous, and the player is believed to prefer Barcelona. However, if Atletico were eventually forced to consider a sale, they may prefer sending him outside La Liga rather than strengthening a domestic rival. That keeps Arsenal somewhere in the conversation. And suddenly, the picture becomes clear. Vinicius is the dream. Barcola is the elite opportunity. Álvarez is the wild card. The decision is not simply about choosing the most famous player. Arsenal must decide which attacker fits Arteta's system, protects the club's wage structure, and improves a dressing room that has already reached the top of English football. This is not another rebuild. It is the final stage of Arsenal's evolution. One reckless deal could consume the transfer budget and damage the balance of the squad, but one perfect signing could transform Arsenal from Premier League champions into the most dangerous team in Europe. Madrid remain confident that Vinicius will renew. Diomande appears to be moving closer to the Bernabéu. Barcola may be questioning his future in Paris, and Álvarez remains extremely difficult, but not completely out of sight. Arsenal are keeping every door open because transfer windows can change with one rejected contract, one late offer, or one unhappy superstar. The Vinicius story may look like it is ending, but until his new contract is signed, it is not over. And while everyone is watching what happens in Madrid, Arsenal's real summer-defining signing may be waiting somewhere else entirely. So, Arsenal supporters, who would you choose? Would you wait for the almost impossible opportunity to sign Vinicius Junior? Would you spend approximately £145 million on Bradley Barcola? Or would you test Atletico Madrid with a huge offer for Julián Álvarez? Because Andrea Berta's next decision may not only define Arsenal's transfer window, it may decide whether they simply defend their crown in England or finally conquer Europe.